Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Soul Centered CEO Show. I'm so excited for this week's conversation with one of my favorite humans, trainer Dane Boyle. Welcome to the show, Dane. So excited.
Hello, Haley. Thank you. I'm excited to be here too. It's been a long time in the making. We've talked about it, and I finally was like, okay, I'm going to get in contact Haley, and we're going to make it happen. So I'm excited to be here.
Today is the day. I do want to share a little bit about your background, so that way everyone kind of has a sense of where you're coming from as we begin this conversation. You are really more than a life coach and a personal trainer. You are this embodiment of 25 years in the health, fitness, wellness profession. You're an inspiring and caring teacher. You're a U.S. Air Force veteran, proud American. You received a master's from the University of Texas, and you're certified personal training. That's been for decades now, right?
That's right. Yes.
You believe and walk with every step of the way. You're actively working with those that are on the path to create and manifest your dreams. You really want people to create a life they love and wake up every day and be amazing, which I love so much about you. You're the founder and creator of the 45 Days to Amazing program, and also a franchise owner of Camp Gladiator. So welcome, Dane. Let's dive in.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So, I have been so honored to watch your journey over the last few years, just seeing how, first of all, what an inspiration you are, and what an example you are of what you teach, which I always love and respect humans that really truly embody what they teach. I think that's really important. And I would just want to start off by saying that of all the people that I know, you are definitely one of those that truly does show up, wake up, and be amazing every day. So we're excited to dive into the conversation today. And really, I think a great place to start, Dane, would be, obviously you've evolved over time from, being a trainer, being a teacher, but now you're really expanding that vision and mission into not only the health and wellness and fitness piece, but also the happiness, the confidence, like all of these other elements that you're bringing through. So would you want to take a minute and share with us kind of the evolution of you, if you will, and how you've kind of stepped into this, beyond just trainer Dane into this fullest expression and embodiment of all the things that you love. So I'd love to hear that.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a long story. I do try to wake up and be amazing and let everybody know every day is a great day. And it wasn't probably always like that. I mean, we've all had sorrows and sadness. It really goes back. And if you'll watch my story, listen to my story, I talk about my dad a lot, right? And my dad was, and I didn't realize it until I've gotten older, was always a dreamer, believer, and a doer. My mom and dad must have sat at my dining room table, family dining room table, when I was in elementary school, and decided it was time for my dad to pursue medical school. He'd been a pharmaceutical rep. He was an Air Force veteran. And just, I think, looking back and watching my dad decide it didn't matter that he was only 35 years old with 4 children, that he was going to change our stars. And so that was kind of the beginning of the process. I worked for my dad for almost a decade. He brought all of the kids back to work for him with his medical practice, as he really kind of missed our childhood. Just, he had to go to school. He had to put food on the table. My mom stayed at home and brought us all back. And I really got to watch my dad work. And what I got to watch him do is love and care on his patients. And it wasn't just about the block of time was 15 minutes. It was, if Haley needed time, he was going to spend the time. Now, when I managed his office, it would drive me nuts. I would the waiting room would be full. The phone is ringing. I'd politely knock on the door. I'd like, he'd come out and he'd say, yes. I said, Dr. Boyle. I never called my dad at work out of professional courtesy, right?
Right, sure.
The waiting room is full. And he goes, it's okay. I'll be out in just a minute. He just did whatever he wanted. But what it led me to believe and learn was it really is about the person in front of you.
Yeah.
It's about the market segment of one. Yeah. And my dad was morbidly obese by the time he was a full-blown physician. Food was his drug of choice. And I watched him, unfortunately, it became to his demise, right? So I lost my dad about 6 years ago. And if my dad maybe had somebody who could have held his hand and not just said, go do 1,000 burpees, go do 100 push-ups, don't eat carbs, and somebody who would have embraced him and loved him for who he was and what he was doing. And the 4 key concepts I like to bring into life is to simplify life is health. And it's far more than not eating a Big Mac. It's far more than just doing push-ups, right? Health. It's embodiment. There's actually 7 elements. Then I want to create happiness. Yeah. Who are you to your core? What puts a smile on? What puts, like for you, what puts sparkle in your soul?
Right.
Yeah. And then I want to build confidence in you so you believe, number one, that you're worthy, eliminate self-limiting beliefs because somebody told you when you were a little girl that you weren't smart enough, pretty enough, who knows? But for whatever those negative seeds foster.
Yeah.
And then within it, we build a community. So, and again, I worked for my dad for almost a decade and I was making way too much money, to be honest with you. And I would tell him, I said, man, I can't leave, right? I got 3 kids, I got a mortgage, I got a house payment. And he's like, I know. He goes, and when the business can't sustain it, I'm going to tell you to leave.
Right.
And he did. And so I was like, well, what do I do well? I've always been a teacher and a coach, even without the certification. And I love sports and competition. So I said, I'll go in the classroom. And I did that. I was a biology teacher, imagine me, special ed is right on my jam, right? Helping people that maybe need a little extra hand, a little extra love, a hug, a high five, a push. So I was a special ed teacher, but I coached football, basketball, cross country, tennis, and gas literally got to $10 or $2 a gallon.
Wow.
And I live in Texas. So of course I drive a truck, right? And I couldn't afford to drive 100 miles a day, making not very good money. But I love the people and love the community. Yeah. I found an opportunity to run a community-based wellness center. And the minute I started, I found out I loved community health.
Yeah.
Absolutely loved working with adults and creating their futures, letting them reduce medication dependency, run or walk a 5K, dance at their daughter's wedding. All these things. And they would come to you after and they'd give you a hug with tears and say, thank you.
Right.
I was able to pursue a graduate degree. I've taught at several colleges in their kinesiology and then their adult wellness programs. And over time, what I've learned is it just seems to me that the trainer guy, and we love each and every one of you. We're glad that you're out there doing health and fitness, but it's not just about specific performance to run faster and jump higher.
Right.
There comes a time and it doesn't matter how fast you can run to first base. What matters is that you can do what you want to do, when you want to do it, pain-free, no questions asked. And know that you are beautifully made. And those are the concepts, even though, and I think about that all the time in my dad's religious beliefs and how much I fussed and fought all the time about going to church and Sunday school, but it's inbred in who I am. It's just being a good human being.
Right.
And I tend to work with 40-plus-year-old women primarily. I work with both genders and all ages, but there's so much of them that just, they've given and given and given and given, and they've been Billy's mommy and they've been Mrs. Jones, and maybe they've been an employee, maybe they haven't. And then when the kids are gone, over that 20 years, they've just kind of lost sight of who they are.
Lost. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So that's really kind of in a small picture. And I could go on for days, right?
Sure, I know. I love that. Yeah.
But I really do. I want you to believe when somebody says, yes, I want to work with Trainer Dane or Empowerment Coach Dane or Confidence Coach Dane or Lifestyle, all the different hats, right?
Right.
I want them to, I believe in you instantly because you've taken action.
Yeah.
And then I want you to take action and believe in yourself the way I believe in you. And just yesterday, as we talked, I literally stood in my kitchen while doing the dishes because I just didn't feel like doing them the night before.
Right.
And I just clicked video and I just sent videos to people that have been in my life. Yeah. And I said, I just want to thank you for being the beautiful human being you are. Thank you for your confidence in me and supporting me and loving me. And I want you to know that I'm here to support you and push you. And when you are struggling, I want you to know that these 2 hands right here will pick you up, hold you, love you until you're beautifully made and you're meant to do hard things.
Right.
That's really the heart center and where I come from each and every day.
Oh, and it just comes through so clearly in your messaging and in your energy. So I just want you to know that we feel that. And it's such a beautiful gift that you offer to the world, and not just your clients, right? Like this is how you show up every day and you share that message. And I think it's just such a powerful one and a beautiful one. And I think that, the 4 components that you mentioned, the health, the happiness, the confidence, the community, those really are the 4 pillars, aren't they? Right? Because, like you said, if we don't have our physical well-being or our ability to do the things that we want to do, whether we're a size 6 or 12 or 20, it doesn't matter. It's like, as long as you feel healthy and you can do the activities that you want, spend time with your grandkids or whatever it is. Right.
Sure.
And then there's a lot of also, women that go on this path of the physical health and well-being, but at the expense of their happiness, right? Like they don't ever enjoy their life because they're always on a diet or they're always doing things that they don't really want to do. So it steals some joy, right? And so absolutely. I love how your model is much more holistic and it's much more real, Dane. It's more available to more people as well.
I hope so. I mean, look, I'm married. I've got a daughter. I've got a granddaughter. I've got a mom. I've got 3 sisters. I've got a stepdaughter. I've got a lot of beautiful women in my life. And I just think that we just haven't done right by y'all. We just haven't. I get it. We all want to have physical beauty,
right?
But your physical beauty will manifest itself when you believe in yourself and you're happy and you're confident.
Exactly.
Right? And if you physically feel like crap, it's hard to be happy and confident.
Exactly.
And if I can take out, look, we're in an instant gratification world.
Yeah.
I can listen. It's so funny when we talk about music. It's like, I don't ever have to get outside of my genre anymore. Between satellite radio and Pandora and Spotify, I can listen to the same genre all the time.
Yeah.
And you hear the same commercials, 7 days of this, 21 days to that, get the injection for this.
Yeah.
I don't have any problem with people wanting to look pretty. I don't.
Yeah.
But I want you to know that it's one day at a time, that over time you'll feel better and you'll look better because you just think you look better. Confident. My 12-year-old son years ago, he told me confidence is sexy. I mean, what an empowering thing at 12 years old.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It is, right? It is. And that kid stands way tall today. But the idea, ladies or gentlemen, love yourself first. At the end of the day, look, nobody really cares if you have a 6-pack. They don't.
Right. It doesn't matter.
And if you don't love yourself and you have one, you still don't love yourself.
Right.
The more I listen, and recently I've been thinking about my dad, who I lost, we buried 7 years ago. My grandfather passed away recently. So 2 men that were very influential in my life.
Right.
I wasn't going to grow up to be 6'10" and dunk a basketball, no matter how beautiful my dad told me I could be, right? I'm 5'10".
Right.
But what both of them said, that if you work hard, you dream bigger, and you surround yourself with the right people and educate yourself, you ultimately can pursue anything that you want to.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And yeah, right. And those are the things I want to be able to do. I want to, being a granddad now.
Yeah.
They're young. I want to be able to swing on the swings, climb on the monkey bars.
Mm-hmm.
If you've got a granddad like me, we're going to ride bikes, kayak, we're going to fish, we're going to do all those kind of things. All the things, like, there you go, all the things, we're going to do all the things. But I want to bring that to everybody, no matter what age you are. I used to do this whole thing called the outdoor experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I would take adults and we would ride bikes and we'd kayak and we'd do all those things that we do for children, like for summer camps.
Mm-hmm.
But you
make it grown-ups.
And grown-ups, and their smiles were this big.
Oh, that's the best.
I know, no matter how scared they were. And when I could get a 50-year-old woman to climb a 50-foot climbing wall while belaying her, and she gets stuck in the middle in ultimate fear, and they ring that bell at the top and they come down and they give you that hug, that could be that confidence booster. Because I'm always going to use fitness, to be honest with you, movement to move the needle.
Right.
And when you say, I could never do that. No, you can do it. You just have to never stop and pursue it. And maybe you have some physical limitations. So what? We'll figure out what you can do and push the barrier and push the envelope. At the end of the day, living 2 words, simplify life. Make life worth living. That's it.
I love it. I think the other thing that you mentioned is surrounding yourself by people that believe in you and can encourage you. And, that's been one of the huge things that this whole show is focused around is this soul-centered CEO concept and being part of a community that really shows up for each other and stands for each other. And I believe that we all need that in whatever shape, form, or fashion we can get it. And I think there's so much power in what you just mentioned, just being in rooms and around people that believe in you and will support and cheer for you. So I love that that's the 4th pillar kind of your model is community, and you build that in, because I do agree that it's incredibly important, and it's an incredible blessing to be part of those communities, right? And
absolutely. Can I share a story?
Yeah, of course. I love stories.
In 2006, I was in a horrible rollover car accident with the kid's mom, and my youngest son was in the car. Kevin was okay. He was taken just for examination, but Kevin's mom and I were both airlifted into San Antonio. And she was hurt badly, physically and emotionally. And I was hurt more emotionally than I ever thought.
Wow. Okay.
Right. So in the journey, and I never begrudge taking care of her, not 1 minute. Like, that's what you do and the people you love. But over that time, we lost each other. The only way for both of us to heal was to not be together anymore.
Right.
But I've been married for 23 years to my high school sweetheart.
Mm-hmm.
And I was lost. I was wandering in the world. My kids were now grown up. See, I was the male version, right? So I didn't look like I did 20 years ago. But my life was different. And I kind of wandered earth, doing the best I could. I still have a big smile. But those that really knew me knew that there was a lot underneath that wasn't healthy.
Right.
And I was flying out to California all the time, trying to find myself. And I was like, I'll just be a damn gypsy. I don't need a house. I'm not going to buy a house. I can make money. I can fly anywhere, whatever. And I interviewed to be the global wellness director for Apple. I'm like, that's a badass title right there. I'll move to California in a heartbeat. I didn't end up getting the job. I gave myself a 24-hour pity party. Like, oh, woe is me. I'm like, I live in a great part of Texas. I've been to Austin and San Antonio. If I've got the money, I can fly to either airport. I can go to the Texas Gulf Coast in a couple hours. I can be wherever I want to be.
Right. Yeah.
But while sitting there praying to my dad, who I just lost, praying to God, and sitting on the bench at the National Cemetery in the Presidio, which is gorgeous, by the way, if you've never been, super quiet, hear the birds, you can see the Golden Gate Bridge. Not only did they didn't tell me how to do it, was to go be bold and amazing and be unapologetically you, but I knew I needed to have a community.
Yeah.
It's who I am at my core. I just didn't know that at the time.
Right.
So I flew home. I literally resigned my job, by the way, like the next Monday at work.
Yeah.
Filed my LLC and been an entrepreneur ever since. But also within that 30 days, I bought a home, the home I'm standing in right now. So no matter where I go to Montana, I go to Florida, I go to Hawaii, all these places that I've been blessed to go to the Dominican later this year. I was in Mexico when things kind of opened up last year. But I always have a grounding.
Yes.
So even in a conversation with you and I, right, I have that favorite coffee shop where they know that that's Trainer Dane. They walk in. We have our favorite restaurant where they know the first drink that Tanya and my wife, Tanya, and I are going to get. And they pretty much know that we're creatures of habit. We're going to get the same food.
Yep. Every time.
Yeah, every time. So that's where community not only is important to me. Everything I try to teach, I embellish it all. I'm going to show up every day. And if I feel a woe is me moment, I'm going to take all the learnings and teaching that I've learned from great people and books and mentors and figure out why and move on.
I love it. I love that you brought up the idea of the coffee shop and the restaurant and the drink and the things, because, I have been nomadic, right, for the last several years. And it's so interesting that you say that, because that's literally the first thing I do in a new town. When I arrive, I find the coffee shop and the restaurant bar place. I meet the owner or the bartender or whatever. Yep. Then that way they know my name and they know what I drink. And it's something about the familiarity and being known that is comforting. So no matter if it's in your same town or if you're traveling and you're going to be anywhere for a length of time, I always do that. So it's funny that you.
I think it's a great tip, and I learned that from listening to you, and then I put it into where I am now.
Yeah,
I think it's really important. So if you read How to Win Friends, I can personal develop you to death. Like, I'm a personal development writer and junkie, big time. But Dale Carnegie's book, written in the 30s. How to Win Friends and Influence People. He said the biggest thing I took out of the book was the most important thing people have is their name.
Absolutely.
So if you're in front of me at a fitness camp, if you're online with me, if I send you an email, if you get an email, every time it's going to say, wake up and be amazing, Haley or John or Susie or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Because that's the most important thing, is we give you value by knowing your name.
Right. I love that.
Recently, we go to the Texas Gulf Coast quite a bit. I live about 3 hours away, and my wife and I love to be outside. And I oftentimes use the hashtag no one left indoors. Like, I just want to be outside. My mom says it's because she made a playpen in California when I was a little kid and just let me play. And maybe that's so. But I went in, we stop and always get little breakfast tacos. And for those that don't live in Texas, that's kind of our staple breakfast. Flour tortilla with eggs or some sort of meat. And that's what we eat, right? Look at that.
Little pile of magic.
It is not healthy for the most part, but that's our treat.
Yeah.
I was standing inside with my mask on and my phone went off, and I looked down, it was my wife.
Yeah.
She said, hey, can you get 2 other breakfast tacos and can you get a cup of coffee? Sure. She goes, there's a homeless woman. We didn't know it was a woman at the time till she walked up.
Yeah.
But before Tanya said that she literally asked that lady her name.
Oh, bless her.
And she goes, that's what she said. I hope you have an amazing day. I hope you find your way and whatever you need, but whatever you do, I never want somebody to go hungry. And then when I don't remember her name, we'll say Susie. She said, thank you, Susie, and God bless you. I just thought, I got tears rolling down. I didn't prompt that. She was like, I just want to help. And if we can help at least feed somebody, I wish we could take them and teach them. We don't know everybody, all the details, but very impactful moment for sure.
Very beautiful moment. Well, and I think there's we all have these deep needs of being seen and known and connected and understood. And I think the more you allow yourself to have moments like that, where she saw her and could be a blessing in that moment. And by sharing her name, I think that's a beautiful thing. I had one story that it's interesting that makes me think about, you've mentioned the Bay Area. I was on a business trip several years ago now, and I woke up really early in the morning, which I normally do. And I took off down the street. I was downtown San Francisco, and I was just going to zip down to the Starbucks or whatever, get a coffee and get some fresh air and stuff in the morning before the sun came up, or right as the sun was coming up. I love that time of day. And I walked by a homeless guy that was on the left of me. And as a woman, your initial reaction is almost a contraction, right? When you're by yourself in a strange city and you're just walking alone and it's not very light out, your first initial experience is fear, honestly. And at first I was like, oh, wait, I need to brace myself or be able to protect myself kind of vibe, which is just a natural instinct. But then I looked over and I just was like, hey, do you want a cup of coffee? I don't even know why, but I just felt like, maybe I should just offer that.
Sure.
And I said, I'm on my way to get a coffee. Would you like for me to bring you one? He's like, actually, I'll walk with you if you don't mind. And I was like, okay. So I literally walked with this man. We had the loveliest conversation all the way down. It was just a couple of blocks in San Francisco. Starbucks are everywhere. And then we paused at the end, and he just said, thank you. And he was telling me about how his brother was getting a job, how proud he was of him. And we just had the most beautiful conversation. And I just thought, you know what? We are all the same. We are all the same. We all have the same struggles. We all want our friends and family to be happy. We want to be healthy, and we just want to be seen and connected. And that was a real learning for me and a blessing for me, because I remember thinking, wow, I could have just kept walking.
Sure.
That was my first instinct, was to walk faster. But instead I was like, no, I'm going to take a moment and see if there's something I can do to help. And that stuck with me for all these years. And now I do it all the time, because I'm like, the blessing for me, it was for me, not necessarily even for the person. What we get from giving is such a beautiful thing.
I was going to say that, what we get from giving. And look, if you don't think that when we work together that I get something from you, then it's wrong. And that's really why I sent those messages. Many of them were, I call you, first of all, you're never just a client with me. You're a champion of life, health, and wellness.
Right.
So some I still work with. I still stay in contact with most people at some level. And that's what I said, that they made an impact on me.
Yeah.
They get so much we just get by giving, right? You feel good.
Absolutely. It's amazing.
Yeah. That's like the big ethics question. Like, do you give out of your heart, or do you give because you get something in return?
Right.
And we can argue both directions, but I think if it makes you feel good, it doesn't hurt anybody, and it makes the other person feel good.
I think it's a mutual benefit. I think.
Sure. So
I love it. I want to make sure that the listeners can really understand kind of how to find you, and really kind of a little bit more about this simplified life concept, and how you're showing up in your offerings, if you will. Yeah.
So, through social media is always super easy. I am the only Trainer Dane on Instagram and on Facebook.
I love it.
And then at daneboyle.com or trainerdane.com, either one of them will direct you. And because I want people to know that I'm fully invested, when you go to my website, it doesn't say, hey, go lose 40 pounds. Hey, build confidence. What it's going to say is, hi, I'm Trainer Dane.
Yep.
And if you're looking for a trainer or coach that has six-pack abs, that has their nutrition on point every single day, then keep on scrolling, because it ain't me.
I'm not your guy.
I'm not your guy. Now, do I want to be held? Absolutely. But if you want your biggest cheerleader, biggest push, make sure you're getting what you need. And then I'm always going to effing show up.
Right.
And Haley's been around long enough. I'm going to show up day in and day out.
And day out. And I love that about you. You're so consistent in the way you support. I think it's beautiful. And I know you're also kind of focusing one of your programs on educators, on teachers. Right. Do you want to share maybe a little bit about
it? Fitness for Teachers. I was a public school teacher for almost a decade. Remember, I said when my dad said, "Hey, get out," he didn't really say get out. He took one of my three sisters and myself and said, "Hey, you guys have a year to figure out what you want to do," because the practice just wasn't going to support the livelihoods that it did for a decade.
Right.
And my sister Stephanie went and moved to New York. Now she lives in Tahoe. Lived in the Bay Area, which is where I was going. Yeah. And I was became that teacher.
Yeah.
I loved it.
And you have a heart for educators.
Absolutely. I, for sure. But I was the most unhealthy physically and maybe even emotionally I ever was.
Yeah.
And I'm blessed that I work with a lot of school teachers now.
Yeah.
So I hear the plight, especially during the pandemic and the longest spring break in history. And now, some are doing online school, some are doing in person, some are doing both. The demands are bigger. Oftentimes they become a janitor, which is probably the most important job at any business now. And maybe it always was, we just didn't know, right? And the stress is just pounding on them.
Yeah.
And it's sad for me that many of the people in the profession have been around a long time and can retire are getting out.
Right.
So I want the teachers to have a platform, not to vent and just bitch.
Right.
Right. But I'm not their superintendent. I'm not their lead teacher. I don't have a child that in their classroom that is doing well or not doing well, but give them those 4 pillars.
Right.
So recently I did a Fitness for Teachers webinar and I had over 600 people show up.
Wow. It's amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing. It literally just popped. It just was one of those things. I learn so much when I'm in nature or I'm running or walking, and sometimes I do it in silence, and that's where all the best ideas come for me.
Of course, yeah, for sure.
And I just stood right here, and I was always like, I want a better background. No, just do it.
Just do it. Absolutely.
It's the message first.
Done is better than perfect, right?
Exactly. So then I even spoke to Haley about it, and she's like, "Why are you waiting? Just do it," right? And so that's part of the process. It's one of the programs we have. Like, you can actually follow me on Instagram at Fitness for Teachers. So the content is a little different, and then it's designed for simple, easy fitness, nutrition, mindset, because I know, especially those that have kids and maybe take care of their parents, or who knows? I mean, we all have lives, right?
Right.
And it's got to be simple, short, quick, because they're such givers that we give so much of ourselves, we forget about ourselves, and self-care isn't selfish.
Exactly. It's the foundation of everything that we need to begin with.
It can be the hardest thing that we do.
The hardest thing. Absolutely. So, okay. I love all of that so much. So if any of you that are listening are either teachers yourself or know and love someone that is, I do feel like this would be a beautiful opportunity to connect with you, Trainer Dane, because this is such a powerful offering that you are creating. And again, all around simplifying life, health, happiness, confidence, and community. And again, I just want to honor and share how much you are embodying all of those components in your life. And we are so thankful to have you in the Soul-Centered CEO Collective. And you really just do embody everything that we are about, right? And so I'm so thankful for this conversation. And I hope that this is just the first of many. And
I hope so too.
Another episode as well. So is there any last thought or tip or bit that you'd like to share before we close out today?
So first of all, thank you. I love the Soul-Centered CEO Community Collective. It lets me surround myself with people who I always say are dreamers and believers, but they're also doers.
Exactly.
And they definitely are heart-centered. My last little bit, and I would love for you to connect again through social media or on daneboyle.com, but here's your trainer challenge today. I want you to call somebody today or text somebody today, tell them you love them, and expect nothing in return. That's it.
Okay.
That's it.
I love it. It's beautiful. All right. Thank you so much, Dane. I appreciate it. And I'll look forward to another conversation. And thank you all for tuning in today for this week's episode of the Soul-Centered CEO Show.